What would you do to get ancient Roman ruins all to yourself? Well, that's what you get in Libya. But before we can get into any of all of this, let's start from the beginning.
Good morning. We're starting day 2 in Libya, heading out somewhere really special.
We're headed to Sabratha. This is an ancient Roman site that existed from 1 BC to 5 AD. It's about an hour drive out of the city with no traffic. So it's time to kick back and relax on the way. Upon arrival, it feels like these are forgotten ruins. Although there's very clear markings that this is a tourist site, and there are guides available, there is no one here, which definitely adds to the mystique and the intrigue. In 1982, Sabratha was designated as a World Heritage Site by UNESCO. However, since 2016, it's been placed on the list of World Heritage Sites in danger. Sitting on Libya's northwest coast, there is over 2,500 years of history here. It was founded by Phoenician traders in the 5th century BC and was then built up by the Romans in the 2nd and 3rd centuries AD. Today, I'm going to explore the Roman ruins, the Grand Theater, baths, temples, fountains, mosaics, and paintings. It is such a unique site, especially in the way that you can walk around essentially freely however you want. And it's truly a wonder why more people don't come here. The ancient Romans loved their olive oil and wine. All over you can find olive oil and wine storage such as these. They were able to keep them cool down below. Just one of the many, many inventive things that the ancient Romans did. When it comes to visiting an old site like this, it's great to hire a local guide. This man is a historian who's giving us the lowdown of the entire structure. Although a lot is standing, it's also really great to have a comparison map to actually see what it was like back in the day during its heyday. One thing that's so crazy about walking here is that the floor beneath my feet is the original floor that the Romans had installed. So this flooring is over 2,000 years old. A lot of the stone was imported from all different places, and I'll get into that in a little bit. But everything has a use.
Holes to keeping the salty water outside, which working as a filter to keep salty water outside of the land.
Now we're learning about the various different types of pillars.
One piece marble, like inside, later we will see it. And the capitals, we have 3 types of the capitals. There is Doric, very simple, front of us, circle and square, and Ionic, which looks like horns, and Corinthian. There is a lot of accounts leaves.
Now what would you think that this area would be used for? Well, those holes used to hold oil lamps, and to light those oil lamps, they used olive oil. Again, who would have even thought that was something to do, yet they thought of it. And we still continue to use these methods and do the same things today. Now this is the Mausoleum of Bess. Although it was named after the Egyptian protective god Bess, this mausoleum built in the 2nd century BC incorporates both Punic and Hellenistic styles of architecture.
Between that 2 lines over there is in the middle Bess himself. He holding or he carrying 2 lines upside down. And usually we say that Bess, he have funny face because his head that touched directly shoulder without neck, and he was dove and he have bow leg.
Punic architecture is actually a name that we think is Amazigh. However, it just means that it dates back to the Phoenicians, which predates the Romans. You can imagine how grand this once was surrounding the mausoleum. Surrounding every pillar is this ancient level of plaster, a strong protective coating.
We don't know exactly how to make. Maybe they have some technical that time different with nowadays.
But potentially this is one reason why everything has withstood the test of time out here. Let me just give you some insight into who we have with us right now. We have our local tour guide, Hisham, our main guide, and a soldier with us, plus our undercover soldier following us somewhere behind. Each of these roads face north, south, east, and west. It is said that it leads all the way back to Lebanon, where the Phoenicians first came from.
Because we don't know for who's dedicated, which date back to the 2nd century AD, it means Roman time. How it was the time? It have roof particle. The area between roof particle and podium, this area, it was open to the sky to collect rainwater.
This was just one invention, but they also invented something else.
From Roman, because right nowadays we have some suits and some clothes with this design of herringbone. So that's why we say we learn from Roman. Like this one with here, which I have, we have the same material. You see that? We have the same thing. So that's why we say we learn from Roman.
And also not just fancy patterns, but this is a cistern. Here they would collect rainwater to be used later. Interestingly enough, it was actually connected to these holes in some way. So there were various ways where they would collect rainwater and then it would all pool together in the center. Now there's some trash and not much else in here. But it's incredible to see the way that they set up these systems in the center of their cities. There are many random pieces of just beautiful sculptural work here. Stone was used to build, and the limestone is from Nafusa in the south. Most of the marble is from Egypt and Greece. Like here, this is an eagle. Just beautiful. I decided it would be fun to step on one of these restored pieces of marble here. All of a sudden, he decided to explain to us about 12 fountains that are hidden away.
12 fountains. But right nowadays they have discovering only this one. It means the other 11 could be somewhere in the city. One day is if they will digging, or could be inside the sea, because we have more than 100-meter part of the city sunk in the water.
Again, the Romans were very advanced, so although that these steps seem like they are just normal steps, there's something very different about these steps. They constructed them in a way, I guess, to save material. Let's get a little bit closer and check it out.
Yeah, but they are very thin. The weight, the heaviest is, think from here, not from there.
Do you see how we typically will stand on the front part of the step, so they made that the thickest, and also saved materials along the way. So that was the center for commercial, political, and religion of the Roman Empire. It is absolutely incredible to see that these tablets have been left behind with Latin carvings into them. So essentially, we can still read these, and they've stood up almost better than anything else here.
In summary, the meaning of this description, that the citizen who was living here, they was thinking about the people helping them a lot to restore their city after earthquake 365. So that's why I wrote the description to thank them.
At one point, this entire area was littered with beautiful mosaics, and they actually have many of these in different museums around the world. Sadly, we only have photos of those mosaics here, but it's better than nothing.
It's stone, but also they use glasses.
And these columns specifically come from Aswan in Egypt. That's why they have the gray color that they do. Imagine coming all the way from Egypt. It's incredibly far. What is insane about these are that they're a marble base, steel in the middle, and then liquid lead around that. And that is why they are just so strong and have not broken. One thing that made Sabratha so powerful is the fact that it was directly next to the sea. And they believe that there are still ruins inside the sea. They have continually found more and more ruins as people dive here. And they are still excavating, however, they don't necessarily have a huge amount of funds for this, so it's going pretty slowly. Welcome to the market for olive oil. Olive oil was used for massage, light, and cooking. All of this are different olive oil presses, so as you can see, this was one of the machines that they would use, and there were a bunch of different people who came here to make olive oil. It was probably the most important substance that they used during Roman times. And it's incredible to see how much space they specifically designated to store the oil, to press the oil. Life basically ran on olive oil. Now let me take my favorite part. These are the ancient Roman toilets. Yes, you heard that correctly. Here, people would line up and all go to the bathroom together, 50 people at a time. For me, I find this pretty comical, but it was a place where everybody would gather and they would have important conversations, but next to each other on the toilet. They would have enslaved people warm up the toilets for them. And another interesting fact is they had a carving of the god of the wine near the toilets. Maybe you can figure that one out for yourself. This next area is very interesting and quite ingenious.
So this is completely part of the bath, but this is part of the oven. So there where they will boiling water, then the carrying steams by pipes.
So if you didn't catch that, this is the oven. And then they use the heat from this oven to heat up the water that is collected in the area to then heat up the baths. They had a bunch of different pipes that were made from terracotta, and that took the water from this area and then led it through to other areas. All of these bricks are original. And these are the actual pipes that would carry the water, which is also so impressive to see that they were able to make them this cylindrical and just absolutely perfect looking. These are the ancient pipes of the Romans. It is just incredible to think that they were able to create this kind of technology. Now we're heading to the baths, and the baths are where they had a lot of mosaics. As you can see, we are close to the sea, but all of these mosaics are still here. Many of them are in different museums, however, not all. They've left a few pieces so you can see how it might have looked a long time ago. For our final stop of Sabratha, this is the Roman theater. This is a characteristic of pretty much any ancient Roman city. Along the bottom are all of these different carvings. They all symbolize many different things, and it is beautiful to see the way they all come together, almost as if to tell a story of the past. As you can see, there are some nude ladies here, and this was the judgment of Paris. So that's basically that they would judge the women on their beauty and decide who was the most beautiful. These were the people who were deciding for some reason. But I love that you can see their curly hair. These are the pantomimers, so basically the mimes, the jesters, and you can see that their mouths are open, and everybody was nude, I guess, pretty much. Here we have the comedy and tragedy masks. So if you know anything about Shakespeare, that's kind of what this is. But here are the actors. Comedy and tragedy masks are basically signifying acting because this is where all the performances were held. And the actors actually lived right next door to ensure that they were never late to a performance. The Phoenicians were actually living in this area until the 1st century BC, which is when the Romans ended up coming. So this is showcasing the Phoenicians and the Romans shaking hands. The Romans actually ended up building their city on the foundation of the Phoenician city. So you can see that foundation in certain parts of the area. I'm actually not sure what these are, but it's really crazy just to see how well inscribed they are. You can even see the belt. It's pretty incredible. This is one of the best things about traveling in countries that some people don't want to go to or are afraid to go to, is that you get these sites all to yourself. I mean, you could never get this if you were in Greece or Italy. 5,000 to 6,000 people could fit in this amphitheater at one time. Being an actor was definitely a job of passion. They were extremely dedicated and they could never be late to a performance. As I mentioned, they lived right nearby, so they would have absolutely no excuse. It's been an amazing time exploring Sabratha alone, and now it's time to go back to the capital of Tripoli. Although not everyone wants to visit Libya because they've heard of political instabilities, this is such an incredible experience, and I highly recommend that everyone visit Libya if they can. It has felt extremely safe, especially at tourist sites where there is a ton of security. Okay, one last surprise.
Look at how beautiful the sea is behind us.
Tune in next week as I take you along to Leptis Magna, an even more unbelievable structure from Roman times.